the remarkably talented and hilarious Kyle Brandt of Good Morning Football, and 10 Questions of Kyle Brandt podcast from Ringer and Spotify with guest Keegan-Michael Key. Kyle Brandt, how are you, brother?
Rich, it's awesome to hear your voice. It was awesome to watch you and be part of what you did all day on Sunday. Incredible job. We played the clip this morning on Good Morning Football of the cannons going off. We all laughed out loud at the table. Amazing moment.
Well, again, I mean, we're sitting there, and it's got, we got 8.5 hours to go, and it's kind of like that sleepy first hour.
Sure.
And all of a sudden we're in the middle of a segment, and they fire those cannons off. And I read throughout the week that they would only fire the cannons if the Bucs won the Super Bowl. That was the only time. They're not going to fire them for every touchdown, every score, or whatever. And then they fired the cannon. I honestly jumped out of my seat, like we all jumped, even though it was across the stadium. And then they did it a second time. And just as Irvin was making his point, doing his hype man routine, and was one of those where I just barked at everybody to say, can you give somebody a heads up? Like, what the hell is going on?
There's many people in television and radio who could use the cannons while they're speaking. The energy needs to be dialed a little bit up. The playmaker doesn't need it. It felt blasting the cannons during Michael Irvin felt like turning on the bugles during like a Sam Kinison set in the 80s. Like we're good on the energy. It was really a lot, but it was awesome TV.
So what is your assessment of Super Bowl 55 3 days later as they're boating in celebration right now in Tampa as we talk?
Yeah, I'm kind of frustrated with Super Bowl 55. All credit and all glory to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I love what they did. And I'm specifically a huge fan of Jason Light. I love Jason Light, the GM. And yet, it was a shocking outcome, 31-9. And I'm thinking of some of the more shocking outcomes we've seen, Rich, over the past decade or so. And I think that Seahawks team just destroying the Peyton Manning Broncos, it was just a clean butt whooping. Certainly the 18-0 Patriots losing. They were, we had Sean O'Hara on the show this morning, part of that Giants team that did it. They showed up. They were better. They were tougher. They were meaner. I'm several days away from this game with the Chiefs. I just feel like that wasn't the Chiefs. We didn't see them. And the postcard of that game, honestly, my takeaway and the frozen moment of that game, if I could put it in one image, would be Mahomes sprinting backwards 30 yards, running around like a rodeo clown, trying to just pull magic out of his backside. It was ridiculous. I feel like it was as if he didn't have a chance. And so I would never put a yeah but permanently on it or an asterisk or anything like that. But I just feel like we didn't get the best Chiefs. And it was the O-line injuries and all that stuff, and there were several other factors, but I feel like we did not get the Chiefs' best punch that day. I wish we would have, and it's kind of frustrating me. I was happy for a couple days for the Bucs, and now I'm like, damn, the Chiefs really let us down, and I feel like we just didn't get the best Chiefs.
Well, I mean, and one of the factors that might have played into it is obviously what happened with Andy Reid's son and Britt Reid, and him now being on an administrative leave, and there being a baby, like literally, a little human that's on life support right now. And how can a human being actually focus on a task at hand when all that is going on? And that's why I kind of regretted the take that I did actually say yesterday, and I'll repeat again with this now as the caveat as well. A Philadelphia Eagles Andy Reid team showed up at Super Bowl 55, where the quarterback that has been dynamite all year long has problems either with protection, and balls get dropped, and clock management rears its ugly head at the end of the first half, and just mistakes get made, and it's just when you hope that the best can be put on the field, it doesn't happen. And that's what happened quite a bit for Andy Reid in Philadelphia, and his tenure in Kansas City has erased all that, and rightfully so. But that, again, injuries, whatever, could have, the officials, I thought, came out tight too. It all did lead to a Chiefs team that we have not seen look that way since Mahomes ascended to the starter's role. That is true. That happened.
It's true. And Rich, listen, I'm glad you brought up the Britt Reid thing. There's no taboo on that. I think there are people who are loath to mention it, or maybe don't really grasp the effect that could have on a locker room or a team. Very tight-knit team. This is not just that it was Andy Reid's son involved. It's one of their coaches. It's part of the deal, and it's really disturbing. And I'm not convinced that storyline is going away. And I'm worried it's not going away, and I'm hoping for the sake of everybody and praying for the child, but I do think it could play a role completely. And listen, I'm glad you brought up the Andy Reid thing too, because we're quick to forget and we're eager to forget that this is 20 years of Andy. You can't count him on the big one, and that was his rep. And then you get Mahomes, and it all goes away. But as we now peel everything back in the offseason, it's like, wow, if they had not completed WASP against the 49ers, we're still looking at losing the big one every single time. And credit, they made the play, but there's a lot to unpack here. And as we do that over the next 6 months, the thing I have no time for is the right-on schedule, predictable blueprint conversation about the Kansas City Chiefs. They figured it out. They did it. Now that we can beat – I don't think so. I think there was a huge set of circumstances that went into the Chiefs losing that game, all of which had to do with the Bucs and injuries and home field and officiating. So I don't have any time in this offseason, and we have time for anything in the offseason. I don't have time for the Chiefs are now exposed and this thing's over.
I agree with you. Kyle Brandt here on the Rich Eisen Show. What I don't understand is why the Bucs wouldn't be considered a favorite to repeat. Why wouldn't they be? I mean, I think they're going to run it back. And one of the things you already heard was a guy who, as he says, retired from retiring in Gronk, and somebody who did retire twice, once in air quotes from the Steelers, and then once literally at his own choice from the Arizona Cardinals. And Arians is like, damn straight, I'm going to run it back, and we're gonna figure it out. Jason Light is just money. So let's just figure it out. I mean, like, they all have that Brady mentality of normally the 43-year-old quarterback's on his last legs and thinking, well, I'm going to definitely take the opportunity to ride off in the sunset for my exclamation point on my Hall of Fame career. He's like, no, absolutely. Maybe even 50, like George Blanda. Cool? He's gonna run George Blanda down. You know what I mean? Like that. It's so wild that so why wouldn't the Bucs be the favorites here to repeat?
He sets the tone in everything. I mean, you know how this goes. You've done a million of these interviews where you ask the question to Brady as he's sitting there with the Lombardi, and are you coming back? And to a man, it's always, right now I'm just thinking about this one. I'm going to take some time, and I'm going to. And he just goes, "Yeah, I'm back." He says it right there on the dais next to Nance. Nobody does that, and he's so confident and so sure. And I think he sets the tone for everybody. To your point, BA's coming back, Gronk's coming back, and we'll get into it. Point to me the champion in a trial by combat that right now that say, oh, well, that's the team in the NFC that's just going to be a juggernaut. Because I have to tell you, I have a lot of doubts about. I know everyone has already put in rings on Matthew Stafford's finger. Guys never won a playoff game in the Rams. I don't see these teams around the NFC. They're like, I don't know, I'm scared of them. AFC, some bad dudes. NFC, the Packers never get it done. Who's taking out Tampa next year? They cheated it, Rich. This was supposed to be the warm-up year. This is you get in the wild card and you lost 31-27. Great season. Next year they really have something. They already won one. They're ahead of the curve, and next year I think they'll be better.
I think we've stumbled upon something, and you just did there, Kyle Brandt. I mean, Brady's going to be in his house money year. I mean, it's his house. I mean, but also, 8 is much more of a round number than 7. Seven's a prime number. 8's more, more divisible. And the fact is now he could win as many Super Bowls as a 40-year-old as he did as a 20-year-old. I mean, like these are all in the ether, and these are all things that he's going to want to accomplish. So why? That's right. I mean, Brockman recounted where the city where Mo Green has no plaque or sign posted recognize his greatness. Thinks that who's the favorite?
The Chiefs are the favorite, followed by Green Bay, and then Tampa's third at 11-1.
I don't understand it. I don't quite understand it.
I love, Rich, that now we've gotten to the point of trying to hype Brady's greatness, and this is why I love that we're involving prime numbers into this, which is divisible by themselves and one only.
We've run out of it.
I will double down with you.
Right.
I don't even look at 7 first for him. The number I look at for him is 10, and I've started 10 Super Bowls. So he gets to it next year. Then he's at 11. That's at another prime number. That won't do. Wow. I think you have to make it nice and even and go with your own number and get to 12, which is your jersey number. I think it's starting 12 Super Bowls and potentially winning 9 of them. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, I know, especially since, if he wants to continue on with his branding, which I'm sure he does, TB12.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, TB12 is all of that and a biscuit. I got Kyle Brandt here on the Rich Eisen Show. Keegan-Michael Key is one of the most engaging, energetic, funny people I've ever met and been around. I love talking to him, and I can only imagine the two of you guys must have hit it off for your pod this week.
Amazing. I couldn't agree more. The most articulate person on the planet Earth. If I try to talk like him, I will break my jaw. He is so funny and so fast, and we got into the whole thing about Hengel McCringleberry and all the Key and Peele stuff. We looked back on when he hosted the NFL Honors, Rich, and it was so time-stamped that very moment that night that he had multiple jokes about Brock Osweiler's contract were in the monologue. So that lets you know. I think it was very 2017. He was incredible. That episode's out now, and I have to tell you, Rich, just an hour ago I recorded one of 10 Questions with a former #1 overall pick, and had an incredible time with Alex Smith, who
great,
unbelievable. Listen, here, Alex Smith, you sit down, you're like, I'm going to talk to him about Urban Meyer, Jim Harbaugh, right, Colin Kaepernick, Patrick Mahomes, on and on and on. And Rich, he told this story I never heard before about when he had the 1 year with Mahomes. He's sitting there, and it's late in the season, and he's running the #1 offense in practice, and everybody starts talking. They're like, have you seen what the rookie's doing with the scout team? Because he's doing these no-look passes, and he's going behind his back, and this guy's putting on a show over here. And at that point, Alex Smith is like, yeah, I may be playing somewhere else next year. It's an amazing story, and he's full of it. Alex Smith, fascinating guy.
I can't wait for that. He's kind of, I interviewed him when he was coming out of Utah and was in the mix for, that's the first time I interviewed him on NFL Total Access way back in the day.
Sure.
And then my last time I interviewed him was at the Super Bowl in Minnesota when it was obvious that the Chiefs were going to go to Mahomes, and he showed up that day, and I asked him what his future was, and he said he did not know. And within 3 hours of him leaving, he was with Washington. He was sent to Washington. So he's kind of like my Dr. Nichols. Like, I wanted him back because he lied to me to my face, and obviously this is not life and death like RDU 90 was, but he was kind of my Dr. Nichols. Like, whenever I hear his voice, I'm like, I got to look at him. And of course he's going to lie to me. He's not going to sit there and go, yeah, I'm going to be traded in the next 3 hours, because it was all going down that day. And he couldn't have been more professional answering all the questions.
He said, Richard, I'm in the middle of this speech here. I'm sorry. You switched the samples. You falsified your research so Devlin McGregor could make Provasic.
Correct. I almost showed up at his introductory press conference all disheveled and beaten up to break it up, like in the middle of, I almost did it, but I thought better of it.
And he would say, I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, my friend Richard Eisen doesn't feel well. I love The Fugitive.
That is the old remote drop. Ask him our poll question for the day over there.
What do you got?
All right, Kyle, it's the anniversary of Linsanity's start today. Obviously one of the greatest one-hit wonder hoops players of all time. Who's the greatest one-hit wonder NFL player of all time? We went David Tyree, Peyton Hillis, Tebow, Larry Brown.
Oh, those are great. Okay, I have a definitive answer. I love Peyton Hillis. The guy's on the Madden cover.
That's right.
Larry Brown went on to a big contract from the Raiders. And then who was C? Who was the third one?
You got David Tyree, Tebow, Hillis, and Larry Brown.
Obviously. The answer here is Tyree and a runaway, because the other guys had albums they released. They had albums, with the 10 tracks. And David Tyree was just the cassette single. It was one song. He never had another catch after that. He now has a smoothie store in New Jersey. Just one, he was a full, Right Said Fred. I don't know if Right Said Fred actually had an album. I know I had the cassette single. The rest of those guys, they had at least an LP that they got out, a season worth or a run's worth. I think it is definitely David Tyree. But as I heard as I'm coming in, when you do a poll like that, everyone says, well, wait, what about this guy? What about this guy? You're forgetting some. And I think they're right.
Yeah, I know. I guess he's like that one. He's the that thing you do. He's the Wonders, where he caught where he caught the ball on top of his head. No, the one I'm getting on our Twitter timeline is Timmy Smith from the Super Bowl. That's the one that I'm getting the most right now.
That's a big one because of the stage. I'm trying to think of my top of my head. There was a guy. Remember when Rodgers was throwing Hail Marys to Jeff Janis? The wide receiver against Arizona. That was a big one. And there was one where the Patriots had a running back. I think his name was Jonas Gray. and he had like 5 touchdowns in a primetime game and then was late to practice the next week. And I think Belichick sat him and cut him.
See ya.
So I would nominate them.
Yep. Jonas Gray.
Snowstorm.
Jonas Gray against the Colts on that Sunday night game.
Was.
Yep, it was. And then he missed the practice because it was a snowstorm. See ya, Jonas. Wouldn't want to be ya. Out. So before I let you go, Kyle Brandt, we are going to talk between now and the beginning of the season. I truly appreciate you calling in every week, man. It's been a pleasure, literally right in the middle of the week. You help us get through the hump day with a laugh and always something to think about in pop culture and sports. I really appreciate it. So thank you. That's number
Rich,
one.
Thank you. Thank you. Listen, I remember coming on week 1. After week 1, and you had to calm me down in your sage wisdom, and I had picked the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to go to the Super Bowl, and they just got their clock cleaned by the New Orleans Saints, and I'm sitting here panicking to you saying, Rich, I got to switch my pick. You were a steady hand, a voice of reason, as it were, and what do you know? The Tampa Bay Bucs are literally having a parade today on cigarette boats like Sonny Crockett. So thank you for having me. I love you. I love your show. This is one of the highlights of my week. I'm dead serious when I say that. So much fun. You guys are the best.
I appreciate that. If I had only listened to myself, because I hopped off the Bucs multiple times, including Super Sunday, allowing Michael Irvin to act like he was caping for TB12 all 26 weeks. I had to hold him to account on yesterday's show for that. But right now, one prediction I'm going to ask for you to crystal ball for me, and then we'll check back in with you periodically.
Okay.
The starting quarterback for your Chicago Bears in 2021 will be fill in the blank. What do you got for me?
Okay. They can't possibly bring in Nick Foles again. They can't have him start. I don't think Trubisky, it works out contractually. He's a free agent. He's going to walk away. I'm going to take a shot. I'm going to take a shot, and I'm going to say that the starting quarterback week 1 for the 2021 Chicago Bears is Sam Darnold. Rich, I know it's close to home, my friend. I'm going to go with my gut.
You'll love him, man.
Right. Is that a melancholy response?
No, you will love him. You will love him. That would be great. That means that the Jets, let me extrapolate. Let me pull on this strand. Let me put more meat on the bones. The Jets will give up Darnold because they have drafted somebody, or they have acquired the Holy Grail from Texas, from Houston. What do you got?
I think that they have made a massively aggressive move in the draft and have redone their quarterback situation for their brand new head coach. I don't think that they're doing the Deshaun Watson thing because that's going to be too messy for too long. I think that they're making an empire move in the draft with all those picks that they've built up.
Okay. By the way, if you get Deshaun Watson, we discussed it earlier, that's the season opener on NBC, is Bears at Bucs. If Deshaun gets his first start with the Bears, if he's with them, that would
I'm in.
Thank you for the call, Kyle Brandt. The podcast, 10 Questions with Kyle Brandt on Ringer and Spotify. This week's episode is Keegan-Michael Key and then Alex Smith. In a future episode, I will be listening, tuned in. And Kyle, thanks for the call, as always. Appreciate it.
Anytime, Rich. Sometime in the offseason, we'll get together with our drinking buddies, Whitman, Price, and Haddad. You're the best.
Well, as long as we can find them on the island.
Basking in the Maui sun.
Because that's what I saw on television. So thank you for the call. You're the
man, Rich. Thanks, guys.
Right back at you. This is Kyle Brandt. Gosh, Whitman, Price, and Haddad. The running man home game. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.